All right. So, pretty big news out of Duval County today, out of the Ville. We officially got some new news on our guy James Gladstone. So this is such an awesome hire. This is somebody that just worked in football, worked for the LA Rams, and really Liam Cohen. What he's done here with these hires, I mean, I know that Grant Udinski was asked to interview several other places, but really Seattle kind of opened up that can of worms there with Grant. Then you look at Anthony Campanelli. He wasn't really on anybody's radar to be a defensive coordinator. He was a linebacker coach, and he's 43 years old. And really, you now look at James Gladstone. And James is somebody that is from St. Louis, Missouri. He played college football at Westminster College and was a wide receiver there. He looks like he's about 6'1 or 6'2. James Gladstone does not have a lot of social media. He's very similar to Grant Udinski in this way, in that he's kind of a fascinating, like, diamond in the rough kind of character that nobody would have, discovered if he wasn't plucked by Jacksonville. So James Gladstone has been the director of college scouting there with the Rams for a while. So they were able to get Puka Nacua. They were able to get like Ben Skoramek. I know that Donald was the big guy that they hit on. They hit on Jared Goff as a quarterback. He led them to a Super Bowl. Even getting C.J. Anderson that year in free agency was pretty darn spectacular. Andrew Whitworth, trading for Jalen Ramsey, Odell Beckham. Cooper Kupp was a gem out of Washington State. So the wide receivers that these guys have ended up getting, like in the later rounds, like they're hitting on a lot of players. Cam Akers is still playing football, Tutu Atwell. So the guys that the Rams first, and then Liam Cohen turned out to be a brilliant coach. Zach Taylor was on that Rams staff, Kevin O'Connell. So what McVay and the staff have done, and really Gladstone has been under the tutelage of Les Snead and also the tutelage of Brad Holmes. Brad Holmes was the college scout really in L.A., and that infrastructure ended up going to Detroit and building an absolute giant in Detroit for the Detroit Lions. So the one thing about Gladstone is I mean, he's a young-looking person. I mean, he doesn't have facial hair, and he's somebody that is just interesting. He's very mature for his age. He's somebody who talks really just with an old soul about him. He's somebody, he doesn't stutter, but he speaks slowly and poignantly. He's somebody, poignantly is a word I don't want to spell, but poignantly means, what does poignantly mean? It means that he's specific. And one of the things about Gladstone is that he sounds like he's intellectual. It sounds like he can use all of these $10 words. That's the thing about James. Very intelligent, but he is very thin himself, right? I think that he might have some muscle on it, but he's not playing football, right? So you say, why the heck does that matter? It's not like, who's Brett Veach is all that strong. It's not like Howie Roseman's just incredibly strong. But the one thing I wonder about James Gladstone is James Gladstone in this, even though he crushed the presser and he talked about ecosystems and talked about how, everybody's going to be on the same page intangibly, he didn't say anything about the game of football. And the one thing about Jacksonville right now is that they're all like this new school thinking style, but are they going to be tough enough? I mean, I know that might sound, that might not sound astute, but James Gladstone, intellectual, smart, but the game of football is still, a rugged, physical football game. And is James Gladstone going to be is he just going to be a numbers guy? or is he going to be somebody that can really connect with these players? And I know that he's a general manager, but how's he going to build trenches? What does he look for in offensive linemen? Does he look for long arms? Does he look for athletes? Does he look with guys with production? I guess we're going to find all of that out. How much does this guy absolutely love football? I think that it could be great. Again, we don't have this information. Sometimes, though, what I find is that you're either blessed with incredible intelligence and you're also blessed with incredible like physical toughness and motivational skill. So sometimes you're a little more introverted, but really, really bright, or you're outward and kind of an alpha, but then can you also, dial it back? And for James, I think that him and Liam are going to be tied at the hip together. I really think that this hire could be one of the most brilliant outside-the-box hires. Like, I love what Jacksonville's doing. If the New York Giants were on this path, I'd love it. So I think it's an A+. I think it's an A. Again, we did try to see this with Urban Meyer, but Urban was a college coach, and then you still have Trent Baalke, and he tried to get a lot of retread hires. These are all new hires. Now, this has worked brilliantly with Sean McVay. And it's also, failed at some points. Like Mike McDaniel was kind of a new personality who was running really good scheme, and it hasn't gone perfectly. Chip Kelly in Philadelphia was kind of this real new school approach to modern science, to technology, and very intimidating for the NFL to latch onto, but it didn't have a long shelf life. And Gladstone seems pretty damn measured, and I really think I'm rooting, for James Gladstone here to be good. But I like that Campanelli's kind of there. He's kind of going to be. I wonder if Gladstone's going to be like, you know what? We need defensive line. We need defensive line. Like Gladstone's personality, he's so clean cut. Everything about his appearance is very, very specific. I wonder if Gladstone is going to be okay with, drafting a special teams and just seeing the game for the physical game in which it is. And I believe that he can do it. But again, you're taking an ultimate leap of faith. And I guess with every GM you are, but he did work with Les. He did work with Brad Holmes, and you just haven't seen him be interviewed. With Moogie, you've seen Moogie interviewed. With Adam Peters, you saw Adam Peters in the spotlight. So he's so off the beaten path, but I'm pumped about it. It's kind of like Grant Yudinsky. These are gems that are getting discovered by Jacksonville. Jacksonville has always been reactive. Oh, we're going to hire Doug Peterson now. We're going to hire Urban. We're going to hire Doug Marrone. Doug Marrone's a retread. Doug Peterson's a retread. This is exactly the direction in which Jacksonville needs to go. They need to build this new stadium, which is still going to be outdoors, and Florida being outdoors is paramount. I don't want the Northeast to play indoor football. Okay, that'll look unrecognizable. You might as well move the NFL to Mars if every game's going to be inside a dome. I'm going to hate that. That's going to be futuristic. That's against everything that I've grown up with. That's against every pillar of my being, is to move games inside. This is meant to be played outdoors, all in the name of concerts and a damn February Super Bowl. But Jacksonville, to its credit, and it's easier because it's outdoors, but their stadium is still going to be played under Mother Nature, outdoors, which I really like. So they're building a new stadium. They're not moving across the pond to London. They still have a couple of games in London, but Jacksonville is kind of this team that can run this experiment. And this is just fascinating. You have a 29-year-old offensive coordinator who has never been close to being an offensive coordinator, no offense, seeing a QB coach, an assistant QB coach get really elevated. Maybe I guess you could point to Tanner Engstrom or Kevin Patullo, but I mean, McCown and Phillips, Wes Phillips, were above Yudinsky in the process. So he wasn't even an assistant offensive coordinator. He was probably fourth in the hierarchy. And then you look at James, and James, you can't find an interview anywhere. You scour the internet today was the first day you've actually heard him speak publicly. He has no social media, so you really can't tell about him. And I give him credit. He keeps his life very private. It's very, very smart. It's very mature. It's a very unselfish way to live your life, to not have any information out there about yourself. So him and Liam Cohen together. Liam's also this Dave Canales type of, positivity and very zenful. And, we're going to go out, we're going to meditate, and we're going to do that. Like, it's not your Dan Campbell approach. Now, the problem is that, you also had Staley that was kind of like this approach, the guy in Charger land, Brandon Staley. But, Liam also can fire people up, and that's what Liam's going to have to do. Like, this staff seems very friendly, but can this football team, through real trials and tribulations, can you still get on guys can you still be mean when you can you still be strict when you have to? Can you still lay down the law? Are you going to be buddy-buddy, or are you going to lay down the law? Now, the thing that I like is that more so now you can be buddy and have it work, especially in the NFL level. I mean, let's look at all the coaches. You have Zach Taylor, you have Shanahan, McVay. These all seem like buddy kind of guys. Nick Sirianni's the ultimate success, Andy Reid. And the coaches that are really strict, you had Joe Judge, he's out of the NFL. Urban Meyer was incredibly strict. So some of the strict coaches are out, but will this coaching staff be strict enough? Is Gladstone going to be somebody that when he deals with a veteran who's 39 years old, or is it when he deals with a veteran who's older than him who wants to stay and retire a Jacksonville Jaguar, is he going to have the guts to say, you know what, this isn't in the best interest of Jacksonville? So, boy, oh boy, James Gladstone. I'm pumped to see what is Jacksonville going to do. I mean, this is so exciting. This kind of is like, if you were to rate some of the coaching and front office situation that are amongst the most outside the box, I would go Mike McDonald in Seattle. I would go Jonathan Gannon, Monty Ossenfort, Nick Rallis, and Drew Petzing. I think that those are some random hires, that are outside the box. Drew Petzing, Rallis, and John Gannon's kind of like their own little tree. And then maybe even Chicago's getting very interesting with Ben Johnson, Declan Doyle, some of that staff. And then maybe you have the Kellen Moore side as well. So these are some of the biggest boom or bust, locations. And this could bust because you're taking risks on really everybody. You don't have a lot of stability. It's not like Mike McCarthy where this is going to be average. It seems kind of boom or bust like. And you have an owner in Shad Khan that is willing to fire coaches. Pretty early in their tenure. It's been tumultuous in Jacksonville. But I applaud it. I'm just giving you kind of a devil's advocate point of view, but I applaud this so much, like going for broke with this hire. I would be doing exactly what Jacksonville is doing. But again, it's all wait and see, right? It's all wait and see. So again, this is a predictive video, but I think we could be coming back to this time period here in 2025, early 2025, and being like, this was the most remarkable stretch of hires that the NFL has seen since the Los Angeles Rams in 2017, ironically. So let me know what you guys think. I think that the majority of it has been really positive. He couldn't have gave a better speech. He couldn't be a nicer guy. He couldn't care more about family. Now, I want to know, though, football. Like, what does he see in offensive linemen? What does he see in offensive line play? What does he like in offensive line play? Does he like physical offensive linemen? Does he like smaller guards that can pull, or does he want to play a power scheme? Do they run like a zone scheme? I want to hear Gladstone talk ball, and we didn't get that today. We might get that going forward. I want to hear, some of the approaches of James Gladstone when it comes to him viewing the game of football. Today was all personal. Who is James Gladstone? St. Louis, Los Angeles, his life, his experiences, his relationships. But when he sees football, what does he value in terms of actual people playing the game of football, actual players? And maybe he's keeping all of that information so incredibly close. I mean, one of his really good answers today was, I know I think about analytics. I know that I talk about ecosystems and all of these, in all of these words. And I know I talk about chemistry and team cohesion, which is so important. And I talk about analytics. I talk about data. I talk about these kind of edges. However, he also said that your play, he says that your production, he did say that that's also going to be weighed heavily. So he's not just going to fully just draft based on numbers like these guys are, robots and not, football players. Because there's some football players, like Aaron Donald's a great example. He's 6 feet tall. He might not have the longest arms, but Aaron Donald was the best defensive lineman in our generation, and you can maybe say he's one of the best defensive tackles of all time. You can argue that for sure, and he didn't check out on a combine list. And there's a lot of combine guys that are, and that's the toughest part of the evaluation and of the process. And I think it's why Jacksonville missed on Aiden Hutchinson. I think they looked at Tavon Walker, and Tavon Walker's still going to be pretty good, but they said, Hutchinson is not combine-wise, he's not as impressive as maybe Walker. But we see how great Hutch is, and Hutch ended up getting hurt. Hutch is a better player than Walker. But Walker might not be awful, right? So, all righty, guys. Thank you for watching. Let me know what you guys think about Gladstone.